The Mandalorian and Grogu face difficulties as they head to Mandalore in order to try to restore his honor. Hello, entertainment enthusiasts. This is Ray, and this is the Fandom Realm. And today I am reviewing episode number 2 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. As always, spoilers are abound, so just be aware. Now, just to let you know, I quite liked last week's episode. It's sort of standard, it seems like, to have something of maybe a world building type episode out there, and I think it did a good job. It also, of course, we got to see some history, okay, with basically the ceremony of becoming a Mandalorian. We got to see some of that. We also got to revisit Grief Karga and see what was going on with him, and we find out, of course, the Mandalorian is headed back to try to regain his honor at Mandalore, and he pays a brief visit to Bo-Katan. And with that, we're going to move on into episode number 2. All right, so, I really liked last episode. Let's see what happens during this one. So, pod racing. Oh, yeah, she's back. I really love this character. She sort of centers the whole thing.
I mean, there are a lot of parts missing. Fine, I'll push it back out in the street.
Hey, you gotta know she's conning somebody.
But you gotta give me half up front for parts.
This is sort of fun. This is why I like her character.
Right, let's get this thing back together again. Quickly, before he sees you.
So the Jawas took it apart so she could fix it.
Seriously, for 5 minutes of work?
That's a racket. But I really love this character and sort of what she brings, sort of the human side to the Mandalorian, and it just goes to show not everybody's perfect. All right, so Mando is showing up back on Tatooine.
Guy. There he is! Woo-hoo-hoo!
Okay, we get to see Baby Yoda use some force.
His first word? I think he's talking to me. Did you hear that? He said Pelly.
Yeah, I don't think so there, Pelly.
Memory circuit. Sorry, pal.
So he thinks he can find that memory circuit here.
I can't use an astromech.
But he's going to get an astromech droid.
Test the atmosphere. Make sure it's safe to breathe.
Okay.
And so he's sort of telling her what he's going to be doing.
I thought you said it was built for adventure.
What? Sorry,
Mando, did you really believe she was going to give you a working droid for half price? I mean, come on. Okay, I'll be honest. This episode, of course, I've already watched the whole thing. This is the only part that...
It looks scary, I know. But it was once green and beautiful.
Sort of makes me wonder a little bit. And I'll talk more about it after.
On that moon, Concordia. And that's Kalevala, where we visited Bo-Katan.
Okay, so understanding the geography of this Mandalorian system, I didn't know the difference.
A Mandalorian has to understand maps and know their way around.
He's been saying that a lot. Of course, that entry reminds me a lot of Yoda.
A planet. From the surface, we won't be able to communicate with anyone out of atmosphere.
Oh, I wonder if that's going to become a problem.
The droid will be fine. I just need him to take some readings to make sure it's safe.
Okay, we've got to go rescue the droid now.
Fine, I'll go get him.
I love how they communicate. And just seeing sort of what's left of Mandalore. Somebody had to be the bad guy.
Okay.
So I guess we're going to head back to the ship.
The charts were wrong. The atmosphere is breathable.
All right, so that's important. You know, on this part of it, I really, you know, we all knew Mandalore was going to have a breathable atmosphere. Just looking at the geography, though, if the whole planet is like that, is it really usable for anything? I guess some of these beings are underground now, but I mean, it doesn't look like you can live there, to be honest.
It's the Civic Center. This is where Bo-Katan said to go.
So he's trying to figure things out. I love seeing him use his jetpack and Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda using his little flying craft.
These waters should flow down to the mines and the living waters within.
Okay, some little scary beast there. You know, I was wondering, what in the heck is going on with that? But somebody used it as a trap. Bait for a trap. So they don't name this machine or whatever this is. But it's sort of like a junk monster. Of course, I love Baby Yoda walking around here on his own. And we see that there is actually something in there. I mean, what's he trying to do here? Okay, Baby Yoda trying to help. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, that's the cutest thing in the world, watching him run. So he tries to use the Force and alerts the bad guy.
Get to Bo-Katan.
And so now we know why. Why everything else has happened in the last 2 episodes. That was a little bit of a jump scare right there. I'm just going to tell you. And so he's making really good progress there, really fast in his little pod. Yeah, Baby Yoda's on a mission, and no bad guys better get in his way. And I love how he just flipped into the fighter, and they're going to take off there.
An unscheduled visitor.
Only problem is, when did he put the pod back?
Let's get rid of him once and for all.
All right, Bo-Katan, not in a good mood. And now she realizes something is actually wrong here.
Download the astromech, find out where they were.
I like the fact she is so ready to jump in and help. And I wonder how long it's been since she's been actually back.
Okay, kid. I'm gonna need you to guide me to him.
And how long it's been since she's actually set foot on Mandalore. Because we're not exactly sure when all this has happened either.
This was once a beautiful civilization. My family ruled it all.
I think this is big, this idea of her family ruling.
I know that you're frightened.
So she's trying to help here.
I don't know what they taught you about us, but there was a time we actually got along quite well.
I like this idea of bonding
How good are you with the Force?
and going back, callbacks to the Jedi. All right, those same monsters that I can't remember their names. Yeah, I've just got to say, I love Bo-Katan's fighting style quite a bit.
I think your dad was the only Mandalorian.
I like that little statement there.
Meal. They used to live in the surface wastelands beyond our cities.
She was given just a little bit of attitude. So they're pumping the blood out of him? Ugh. She sort of caught Stormtrooper syndrome for a few minutes. But boy, she can wield the dark saber, that is for sure.
I'm gonna get you out of here, all right? Can you move?
And of course, she turned her back on an enemy that wasn't dead.
Behind you.
And she's up for the task. Holy cow. And I love the character of Bo-Katan so much. And I'll talk more about it a little bit later after everything is over. And so still bonding with Baby Yoda.
And he's quite the navigator.
Thank you for
So she's quite impressed with Grogu, Baby Yoda.
I once ruled here for a brief time.
We hear a lot about this, her ruling and her family.
About.
I must continue to the mines of Mandalore so that I may be redeemed.
I think that's a big part of this episode.
I honestly think that it's adorable that you actually believe these children's stories.
And I'm going to talk more about this idea of sort of her attitude about
Creed, what are we? What do we stand for?
the creed
Our people are scattered like stars in the galaxy.
and what they all believe in. I think that's a big part of what this episode is about. And so I will talk about that in depth just a little bit more.
And I'll always be in your debt. But I can't go with you until I fulfill my obligation.
You've got the dark saber and you're in her debt.
You'd never find them on your own. Not in all this wreckage.
So I'm glad she decides to stay.
Wasn't that long ago. You'd never know it looking at all this destruction.
It really has to be hard walking through,
The Empire set out to punish us.
and they really did punish you, that's for sure.
What pains me is seeing our own kind fight one another time and time again.
You know, I like that whole attitude she's got right there.
The entrance to the mines of Mandalore.
Okay, so they have reached their destination.
Showered with gifts. But the rituals were all just theater for our subject.
Okay, I think this is an important conversation.
He was a great man.
This is the way.
And you know, I think the Mandalorian is sort of thinking,
I want you to get the full tour. These mines date back to the age
that maybe Bo-Katan isn't as bad.
of Mandalore. According to ancient folklore, the mines were once a mythosaur lair.
You gotta appreciate putting up a sign about what's going on. So I was wondering exactly how he was going to bathe in the water. So I guess you just take off all your weapons and go get in.
The creed shall be forever forged in my heart.
And of course, something's going to grab him and pull him underwater. So there goes Bo-Katan. Now she's rescuing Din underwater. Remember, she rescued Baby Yoda. A mythosaur. How awesome is that? And now they get to think, oh my God, was that a mythosaur? Oh my God. And that brings a close to episode number 2 of season 3 of The Mandalorian. And I just want to throw out there a few thoughts and opinions before I bring this episode to a close. And I'm not really going to talk much about The Mandalorian in what I'm talking about here. My couple things are going to be more about Baby Yoda and Bo-Katan, but you gotta appreciate them coming into Tatooine and having the Boonta Eve pod races. Those are the same pod races that we were introduced to in The Phantom Menace, that young Anakin drove his pod in and raced in. And so I really like that sort of throwback or callback. Now, first thing I'll mention is just the whole Baby Yoda. I love the way Baby Yoda, Grogu, is doing more in this season, being given more weight to carry. Of course, we're getting to see some more of him using the Force, especially his flips and things that he learned, and we got to see him learning with Luke back in the Book of Boba Fett. And especially there was one scene there where he flipped away from the bad guy who sort of shot a lightning bolt at him or an electrical bolt at him, and he flipped away from that, sort of like the remote was doing. So I really enjoyed that, and watching Grogu, Baby Yoda, sort of have more to do and not just sit there and watch all the time. He was actually trying to rescue the Mandalorian, and he did a very good job of it. And boy, he jumped in that cockpit and he pointed at where he needed to go, and he let that droid know, hey, this is what we're doing. And I really appreciated that, and I really enjoyed that. Now, the second big thing I want to talk about is this whole thing with Bo-Katan here. And I really enjoyed her character, and I've sort of wondered about her character since they introduced her into The Mandalorian. And sort of what I'm sort of coming up with here is The Mandalorian is as important for, and his quest is as important for Bo-Katan to experience it as it is for the Mandalorian. And that's because when you look at just the way Bo-Katan has acted, she, of course, we know she had the Darksaber, and the Mandalorians did not really respect her as the leader because she didn't win it in a battle. And it seems like she has a very hard time accepting why the people wouldn't accept that, because it was just a silly tradition to her that the Darksaber had to be won by combat. Okay. And so as we get into this show a little more, to me, what is happening is Bo-Katan is starting to learn how important something like the creed that the Mandalorian took is. Okay. And she actually says it herself while they are walking and talking. When she was younger, she would take the creed, she would say the words, she would go through what she was required to go through, but it was all for show. She didn't really mean it. It was just to show off the princess, and that to make the people proud and to make her father proud, and they didn't really believe in it. And so with that, the big thing there for me is she is going to have to learn why the creed, why being someone that follows a code, why that's important, and why you've got to hold yourself to it even when things are tough. She's got to learn that, and then she can go out and maybe lead and become the leader of Mandalore again. Okay, but she can't do that. She can't achieve that until she learns what the Mandalorian is basically teaching her. Okay, and that's sort of what I think about that whole subject and where they're going with a lot of this. Of course, they may not end up having her rule, but maybe, I don't know what'll happen, but it seems to me that is a big part of this story, is her basically going back and relearning why it's important to follow creeds once you have them. Okay, just like let's say the samurai, you have a code. You can't, even though it might be easy, you are expected to follow it all the time, not just when it's easy for you. And I think that's something she has never actually experienced, because she was as she said, she was the princess. Okay, she could basically do what she wanted. All right, now there were some other things going on here. I'm not really going to talk talk about that. I think I mentioned most of it while we were watching the video. With that, what do I give this episode as a grade? I'm actually going to give it a B. I thought it was a nice solid episode, and I really loved them talking to each other. Actually, I'm going to give it a B+. Okay, so let's make the official grade a B+. I loved what they're doing with Katie Sackhoff and Bo-Katan with the Mandalorian. I love we're seeing more of Baby Yoda. There were a couple little things here or there that I had to roll my eyes at. Especially we spent first episode trying to get our IG droid, and then he just basically drops it. So, that was probably the only negative on the episode, and that basically dropped it probably from an A to a B+ for me. Now, with that, I hope you all enjoyed the review. Please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and comment below, and I'll see you next time on the Fandom Realm. Goodbye.